Well, hello and welcome to today's workshop, which is going to be a very exciting one because today we are talking about AI resume writing, the do's and the don'ts. I guess I'd love to know, have you been using AI in your work? Have you been using it in your home life? What have you been using it to do? I've certainly started to spend quite a bit of time on AI over the last couple of weeks in particular. I wouldn't call myself an early adopter to AI, but I saw a presentation at a conference a couple of weeks ago around the possibilities of some of the things that it could do. And I've certainly started to use AI a lot more over the last few weeks, and I've really got to enjoy it, to the point where I did a poll on LinkedIn today where I asked when you're using AI, whether it's Bard or ChatGPT or Gemini, are you actually using manners? Are you talking to it as if it's a real person? I opened up Gemini this morning and was doing some stuff, and I actually typed in "good morning," and it replied. It said, "Good morning. How are you today?" And I find myself saying "thank you" when it comes back with some useful information. So, it certainly is a very interesting space. Recruitment, like most industries, has been impacted and will be further impacted by AI. And you as a job seeker, you as a job seeker can certainly use AI to your advantage, but using it in the wrong way means you're going to be using it to your disadvantage. So that's what we're going to go through today. I'm going to share with you some of the do's and don'ts, particularly when it comes to resume and cover letter writing. So that's what we're going to be, going through today. Just a little bit of webinar housekeeping to start things off with. I am streaming to you live today, wherever you're watching me around Australia or the world, whatever platform you're on. If I do drop off for any reason, if the internet drops out or we have a blackout, I'll rejoin as soon as I can. So if my screen goes black, don't leave. It only happens once or twice a year, and hopefully today is not the day. Feel free to ask lots of questions. Wherever you're watching this again, you'll be able to type in some questions. You'll be able to type in some comments. And so I'd love to hear from you. And particularly at the end of the workshop, we'll take additional questions. But if you want to put questions to me live as we're going along, I'd love to answer those. And I'd really encourage you to take notes. You will be able to watch a recording of this workshop. It'll be on our YouTube channel. But when you're learning or hearing about something for the very first time, it actually strikes you in a different way. So if you hear something today, I'd really encourage you to note it down and what you thought about it the first time that you heard about it. But a little bit about me, your presenter. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm a director at a recruitment agency called Smart Recruitment, where I've been since 2005. In November this year, I'll hit my 19th year at Smart Recruitment. Over that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews, over 600 group assessments, and placed over 1,000 people into jobs. I would have read well over 100,000 resumes, might even be 200,000 resumes. It's really hard to tell. I've seen wonderful resumes. I've seen terrible resumes. I've seen great candidates with terrible resumes and terrible candidates with great resumes. And I've certainly learned, how to help coach and guide individuals to create a resume that stands out and gets attention. And I launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, back in 2019. I was at a conference recently. It was at a recruitment conference for the RCSA, which is the Australian Association of Recruiters, and there was a presentation from one of the major job boards, and I won't say who it was, but they shared this stat, which is really, really interesting, that by 2025, which is only a couple of months away from now, 50% of resumes will be AI generated that are on that platform. So that really got me thinking. We're not just talking about a small, technologically advanced, tiny proportion here. We're getting towards 50% of candidates are going to have resumes that are AI generated. And so what that really means is that a lot of you out there are probably playing around with AI at the moment and trying to find ways, to best use it to make sure that it's working really well for you. And to make sure as well that you're doing what you think is right in terms of putting forward an application that is that is going to work best for you. So what we're going to do today is, we're going to talk about, all right, we've got this great tool. It's a bit like the internet, right? It's a great tool. We can use it kind of for good, that can help us, or we can use it in a way that's going to be unhelpful. And so many candidates, I think, are a little bit unsure around how AI is going to help them with their resume and cover letter. I think we've already had, a couple of waves of people, just getting ChatGPT to completely rewrite their resume and to completely rewrite their cover letter. And in many ways, that hasn't been working because, while it might seem like a good idea at the time, it's not appropriate. It's not customizing applications yet in the way it should be, mostly because people aren't putting in many of the good prompts. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about resume basics, because we can't get to how you can use AI on your resume without first going through the resume basics. So I want to fairly quickly go through my normal resume coaching workshop. And then at the end of that, I'm going to tell you the 5 resume do's and the 5 resume don'ts for using AI. And I'm actually going to jump into Gemini, and I'm going to show you how you can use Gemini to better match your resume to a job ad, and how you can better write a cover letter using AI to match a description. So stick with me because we're going to be going through some of those basics first. But I'd like to start off with a question. I'd like to ask you a question. How long do you think a recruiter actually spends reading your resume? Now, you yourself will have spent a lot of time on your resume. It might be a document that you spent 10, 20 hours on over the last couple of weeks. It might be a document for many of you that you've been working on for years, and you continually update it and you make changes there. You find that job online that's really interesting. You submit your resume and you send it off. How long do you think somebody spends looking at the resume? Let's have a look and see what the answer is. 7 seconds. So eye tracking study shows that 7 seconds is the average amount of time that your resume is viewed. Now, I don't want you to think that every resume is viewed for 7 seconds. Don't get me wrong here. But what the article shows is it's at that 7 second point where the person reading your resume decides whether to keep going and go deeper into your resume, or literally move on to the next one. So you've got 7 seconds there really to make an impression. So that's something that I just want you not necessarily to keep at the back of your mind. You need to keep this at the front of your mind whenever you're designing your resume, because if it doesn't draw attention and get a good response in the first 7 seconds, then no one's going to read any further. So let's have a little bit more of a detailed look at what this article said. So recruiters spend, and I'm looking over here because this is my share screen. Second dot point, resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured simple layouts. So I want to keep things simple with clear sections and heading titles. Resumes organized by the E or F pattern reading tendencies also did well. So the E or F pattern, I want you to imagine a whole sheet of paper and a really big capital E that takes up the whole page. So, or a really big capital F that takes up the whole page. What that means is all of the, the key points are coming off from one side. That's the E or F pattern. Especially when they utilize bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. So we want it well-spaced, well-organized, bold title, bulleted accomplishments, well-sectioned. Resumes that did not fare well were hindered by cluttered layouts, a lack of white space on the page. So we do want some white space, multiple columns and long sentences. A lack of section or job headers also turned off recruiters, as did text that didn't flow or draw the eye down the page. So there's quite a little bit, isn't there, really, in those couple of dot points there. So I want you to have a quick think and ask yourself, is that my resume? Is that how I've laid out my resume at the moment? Do we have bold headings and bulleted accomplishments? Is it simple and easy to read? Because when we go back to that 7 second rule that is actually happening, you need for that information to be able to jump off really quickly. So you need the recruiter to be able to look at your resume and find the key information that you want them to see very, very easily. what this particularly means for me is that your first page is worth 99% of your resume. I actually don't mind whether your resume is 1, 2, 3, or 4 pages. What I really care about is making sure that page number 1 is where you focus pretty much all of your attention, because there's no point in having the good information on page 2 because no one's getting to page 2 inside of 7 seconds. And if you put the good information on page 2, nobody might even get to it or know what you've achieved. So let's actually talk about what is a resume. Well, a resume is a factual account of your employment and study history. We say factual because it's got dates and times and locations and events, but it also needs to highlight your skills and your abilities and sell you. Your resume has to sell you. Sell, sell, sell. So what I'd really like to get across to you now is the importance of your resume being, it's basically a marketing document. Your resume is, it's an advertisement for you. It needs to really highlight everything that's good about you. Now, I want you to think about, when you might be looking for a property to rent or buy, you see wonderful photos that are well positioned. You read the description and you think, this is amazing. Look at how well they've described everything else here. So what you need to do is to think of your resume in that way. This is an advertisement for you. When you drive past a bus stop and you see an advertisement, that's your resume. When you see a billboard, that's your resume. When you see an ad online, that is your resume that you need to change your mindset away from it's just black words on white paper to it's an advertisement. It needs to sell you, and it needs to want somebody, the reader, to pick up the phone and give you a call. So let's talk a little bit more about that then. Well, that's my question to you. If you're watching this today, have a think. Does your resume actually sell you? Is it highlighting the very best achievements that you've made? Is it highlighting the best parts of your employment history, the best parts of your study history, the best parts of your extracurricular activities? Can I read your resume and know what your achievements and greatest moments in your career have been to date? And are they on the front page? And can I read them in the first 7 seconds? If the answer is no, then we've got some work that we need to do. Your resume is you on paper. It's an advertisement for you. It needs to promote you. It needs to sell you. So if I can only get one message across to you today, because I know that in the second half we're focusing on using AI, this is what your resume needs to be. And I see far too many resumes that do not sell the candidate. And when I then maybe interview the candidate, I find out all this other information that is wonderful, but it wasn't on their resume and they probably only got through to interview based on a fair bit of luck. Let's remove the luck out of it and let's get your resume back to selling you. So stop thinking of your resume as a dry, boring academic document and start making it come alive and highlight how very good you are, because you deserve it. And importantly, it's a fluid document. So what I mean by that is your resume does not stay the same for more than one job application. And I'll talk about this at the end, but it's important to mention up front, you've got to customize and tailor your resume for every single application. Now, you might be thinking, but James, I'm just applying for customer service jobs. They're all the same. Well, they're not. Every single one of those jobs is different in many ways. First of all, there's a different employer every time. Every job will have slightly different skill set. Every advertisement will actually highlight 2 or 3 things different to every other advertisement. So you need to tailor your resume for every application. And if you are sending out the same resume for multiple vacancies, then you are not doing it very well and you're not going to have a very good success rate and you're wasting your time. All right, so let's talk about the first step. So the first thing that we need to talk about is basic resume structure. So before we get into talking about how we can use AI to write our resume and some of these other fancy things, we need to have the basic structure right. We need to have the structure is kind of like the recipe. And if you don't have the recipe right, then it doesn't matter what we cook with, it's not going to taste very good. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, but as you can see here, I'm going to share with you a couple of images of basic resume structure. So what you can see here from this example resume, and a lot of it comes back to that initial article we read, that capital E or capital F pattern. Lots of things coming off, the left-hand side there. So what I like about this resume is we've got the contact details up top. We've then got 3 bold headings. So quite easily, it's quite easy for me as the reader of the resume to read this resume. I can see it goes summary, education history. And then importantly, sort of towards the bottom here, and this is just a template, and you can use this template on our Candidate Coach platform, is we've got achievements on the first page down towards the bottom there. We need to get our achievements very front and center on the first page of our resume. So it's not overly complicated here. As I said, it's basic resume structure. Let's have a look at another one. And again, this is another one that I've created, slightly different. Down the left-hand side here, we've got name, contact details, and then some skills and attributes. But again, as you'll see throughout the resume, we've broken it up with bold heading, with bulleted points, and with different sections, so it's easy to read. Because most recruiters, the first thing they're going to go straight to is your employment history and look at what your most recent job is, because that helps to most easily give me a sense of understanding around your suitability for the job. So it's great to list skills and attributes. It's great to list an introduction. But the first thing most recruiters' eye is going to go to is your most recent employment. So we need to have that on there. We also need to list our key accomplishments and achievements again, which you can see just at the bottom of the images that is cutting off there, that we have those listed. So get your resume structure right. And then the second step, I said, is selling yourself. So after we've got that structure right, how do we actually go about selling yourself? So I'm going to share an example with you now of how you can best sell yourself. I'm not going to take you through a whole resume here, but I'm going to share with you an example from a candidate that I met a couple of years ago, and a little bit of a before and a little bit of after. So this particular candidate I spoke to on the phone. She'd applied for a sales role with me. And this is how, at the time, she described her experience. She said she was a sales representative, and I've removed the name of the company there. We're just calling them ABC. And she was a sales representative for pretty much 3 years. Now, if you recruit salespeople, 3 years is a really good tenure because sales is a tough job. So pretty much based on the fact that she'd been doing the one sales job for 3 years, that kind of got her through to the phone interview stage. Next, she has that she sold goods and traveled to meet customers and keep them happy. So that's how she described her whole role. And so I had a phone interview with her, and she spoke well, and I learned a few more extra bits and pieces. I then brought her in for a face-to-face interview, and that's where I learned what she really, really did. And so this is what we changed her resume into after we had a longer chat. So the first thing you'll see there is we've got bold headings. So we've got primary responsibilities, and then we've got achievements. Now, I've probably gone a little bit longer than I'd normally recommend here with responsibilities. We've probably got 9 there. I'd probably recommend 6 or 7 now. So maybe not as many as we've got here. But you'll see we've called it primary. We can't list every responsibility here. You just really, really can't. What you need to make sure you're listing on your resume are the responsibilities that are most relevant to the job you are going to. And this is why you need to continually update and rotate and rewrite your resume. Even if you're going for 10 different sales jobs, there's 10 different advertisements there, and each advertisement is going to highlight something different. So, for example, let me just do one quick example. The third last dot point under responsibilities is attend at least 3 new business appointments per day. Now, let's say the advertisement you're looking at said you need to attend multiple new business points per day. I would straight away move that to being the first dot point if I was applying for a role that asked that. But what you'll see here, I'm not going to read through it all, is we've got a much, much better understanding of what she did. But most importantly, let's look at the achievements, because this is where she sells herself. She was Salesperson of the Year in 2014. Salesperson of the Year. Now, she was so good at selling that this was a big team. There was lots of salespeople. It was a big company. The prize for being Salesperson of the Year that year was a brand new car. Can you believe it? She was given a brand new car because that was the prize for the top salesperson of the year in the company she was working in. It was amazing. I've not met someone before that or after that who received such a prize for being so good at their job. So on her previous resume, though, she didn't even have this mentioned. She has not salesperson of the year on her previous resume. So basically, if it doesn't say it on your resume, it never, ever happened. But through talking to her and helping her rewrite her resume, we've got that on there. And you can see the other achievements there. You can see the other achievements that we've got listed. I'd really encourage you with your achievements to use numbers and to quantify things wherever you can. I understand that's not always the case, but if you can, it certainly does help. So that's a really good way for you to think about, okay, how can I go out and make my resume, sell me a little bit more. If you're sitting there and you're kind of thinking, well, look, James, this is all well and good, but I haven't been salesperson of the year. I haven't even been employee of the month. I've got no recognitions in my current role. I'd encourage you to answer these questions to yourself. What are you doing in your job at the moment that you weren't doing when you first started? So have you been given extra responsibilities? Because you could list those as an achievement. Maybe you're now asked to help onboard and train new staff. That's an achievement. Maybe you've been given responsibility to lock up the store, for example, at the end of the day. That's an achievement. Start to think of those things. What are you doing now in your job that you weren't doing when you started? You can list those as an achievement. Because in many ways, it kind of doesn't matter what achievements you list, but by listing them, you are showing that you've done a good job and you are showing advancement. Now, one resume I saw listed as achievement, regularly asked to take extra shifts. I thought I really like that, because if someone was regularly asked to take extra shifts, it's because they're doing a good job and probably because they're being reliable. So have a think about what you can list as achievements on your resume and make sure you've got those on page 1. The third step to creating a great resume is to make sure it's visually appealing. So again, I don't necessarily say that black words on white paper are bad, but it's 2024 now. And so there's so many great opportunities for you to have a resume that's visually appealing. A couple of easy ways to do that is to go to your candidate coaching page, wherever you're watching this today. We have templates there that you can download, or visit Canva. Canva.com, you can get a free account there, and they literally have hundreds of resumes, graphically designed resumes, where you just take out the current details and you'll put your own details in and you can fill it out, and it looks really, really good. Probably the only thing to consider with some of them, particularly with Canva, is that you will then normally download that in a PDF format, and many jobs might ask you for a Word resume. So you then might need to go and find another tool that converts it from PDF to Word. But there's lots of cool tools out there that you can use to make your resume look good, look sexy. Fourth step, and our last step before we get into how we're going to use AI, is you've got to change your application for every resume. The candidates that I see that send out, have the lowest response rate are the ones that sadly have sent out 100 resumes in the last 2 weeks, but they've sent the same one resume to every single job. Instead of sending 100 resumes, I would encourage you to send 5 resumes. Spend the same amount of time tailoring your application to 5 jobs as to sending the same resume out to 100 jobs. And I guarantee you that overall, you will get a more quantitative and a more qualitative response by tailoring your resume. All right, so let's get into talking about AI then. So using AI to improve your resume and improve your cover letter. So you'll see here in particular, what I'm not saying is using AI to write your resume or using AI to create your resume. It's specifically the word improve, because I think AI can certainly help you with many of the individual or smaller aspects of your resume, but I certainly don't think that you can use AI to write your whole resume or write your whole cover letter. You might be doing that at the moment and you might be thinking, what's the harm? Well, there's not a huge amount of harm, but as somebody who reads a lot of resumes, we are now able to tell if something is completely AI generated. It does stand out. There's certain ways that the chat platforms write, and this is something that we all can feel from the recruitment side when somebody's submitted a completely AI generated response. And also there are tools out there at the moment now as well that you can subscribe to that will go and completely do your applications for you. So I want you to think about AI as a tool to help you write your resume and improve your resume, but not to write your resume. So what we're going to talk about are the 5 do's and the 5 don'ts. So what are 5 things you shouldn't use AI for with your resume? And then what are 5 ways you can? And I'm going to jump into Google Gemini, and we're going to do a little bit of a live demonstration on a resume and a job application to show you how to improve it. So let's start with the don'ts. Let's start with the mistakes that a lot of people make. So the first one is just what I've described then. They use AI to write their whole resume. They might upload their current resume or their LinkedIn profile and just say, hey, ChatGPT, can you please rewrite my resume? And then they download that and they think it's better than it currently is. That's a huge no-no because it's not tailoring it. It's not your words. You need to know what's on your resume. You need to have a very good understanding of what's on your resume because you're going to be asked about it all the time. The second one is don't expect AI is better than you. I think a lot of people think, I'm no good at writing my cover letter. I'm no good at writing my resume. I'll just stick it into Bard and it'll be better than me. 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. I think we use AI to be a little bit lazy with things like this. Or we just perhaps don't know what to do. So we think the computers are better than us, but don't expect it. It might be sometimes, but certainly don't expect that AI is going to be able to write a better resume and cover letter than you can. The third one is, and we've seen this a lot, don't expect AI to always be honest. So this is why you need to double check everything that you're taking from a large language model. It might add some extra detail in there. It might completely fabricate something. And so you need to really be checking everything that you put in your resume because recruiters know there's a lot of falsehoods on resumes. And as soon as we spot one, your application's done. Your application's dusted. So you'd hate for that to be the reason why you missed out on a job was because you didn't double check what AI wrote for you. The fourth one, and it kind of follows on from the honest one, is don't expect AI to be mistake-free. You've really got to double check everything that comes out to make sure that it is factual, that it is correct. Normally the spelling and grammar is okay, but everything else that it said, make sure there's no mistakes there. And the fifth mistake, and this is probably one of the main reasons people use AI, is to be lazy. If you're using AI to be lazy because you can't be bothered, then it's not going to work for you with job applications. If you're using AI, as I'll show you in a moment, to do better research and to customize certain parts that you then rewrite yourself, it's fantastic. But it is a tool to assist you, like say a Canva is, like a spell check is, but it's not something that you should be relying on to replace you. And if you're viewing it that way, it's going to be no good. All right, that was the 5 don'ts for AI and resume writing. Let's look at the 5 do's. So the first one is, do use AI for initial guidance. So what do I mean for initial guidance? Well, we're going to jump out of my PowerPoint presentation now, and we are going to, as you'll see on my screen here now, I've logged into Gemini, and what I'm going to do in this demonstration is I'm going to ask Gemini, to give me some guidance on the suitability of my resume compared with an advertisement. So what I want to show you, and I've saved this one earlier, I've just got to find it now, is we're just going to jump onto Seek, and we are going to go, where do I find my saved jobs? Here we go. So there's a job on Seek at the moment. It is a store manager role, a retail store manager role for the Reject Shop in Waverley, which is in Melbourne. So you'll see here we've got an introduction to the Reject Shop. We've got an introduction to, a store manager role. We've got 6 or 7 dot points here on what your job is going to be. We've then got 4 dot points and a blurb on what you need to bring to the role, some information on what the Reject Shop is going to offer and the benefit. So we've got that there. I have also created a bit of a dummy resume that I've used. It's not of a real person. I'm going to show that to you now on your screen. So this is a resume that I've made up of someone called Job Seeker. You can see here that they've got a bit of assistant store management experience from a couple of different stores, a little bit of information there. So this is just a one-page resume that I've made up for the purpose of the purpose of today's exercise. So what we're going to do once we go back into Gemini is I'm going to say, let's start by saying, hello, Gemini. Always good to be polite. Get on the good side. Gemini's going to say, hello, what can I do for you today? So I'm going to say, I have a resume that I would like you to compare to a job advertisement that I have seen. Can you do that? So I'm being pretty general here. I'm being pretty general here. So I definitely can help you with that. So please provide me with your resume and the job advertisement. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to Gemini where I can upload. So I go to my drive. I've already saved these ahead of the workshop. So I have got, no, don't tell me it's going to be hard for me to find. Might have to upload them again. Recent, where's recent? That might help me. All right, so example resume here. So I'm going to upload that. Insert and these two. So that's the advertisement there as well, the store manager advertisement. Oh no, not that one. I think it's that one. So I'm uploading my resume. So I'll say, here is my resume and here is the advertisement. Would love to see how suitable I am. All right, so let's run that. That'll take a little bit of time. It scans through my resume. It scans through the advertisement here. And as you can see, it's giving me lots of feedback. So what I said before is we are going to use this as initial guidance here. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that what we're doing here is we're going for initial guidance. We are not asking it to rewrite our resume or anything like that. So let's have a look at it. So it says, okay, I've got both your resume and your advertisement. Let's break down your suitability for this store manager position at the Reject Shop. So it's looking at my strengths. It's talking about what my strengths are, my relevant experience, my leadership and teamwork. It's talking about areas to consider. So this is one that's in particular for you. It's kind of like, these are your weaknesses. So here it says, while you have many relevant skills, you might want to explicitly highlight some that are directly mentioned in the advertisement. For example, merchandising is a key skill listed in the job ad. So this is where it becomes really, really valuable, right? Because I haven't mentioned merchandising in my resume. Gemini has picked that up. They picked up that merchandising is a key skill. It's not mentioned in my resume. That's great. We need to address that. Then quantifying achievements. Consider quantifiable results for your accomplishments. For example, instead of just saying increase efficiency, try increased efficiency by 15% through implementing new training protocols. So again, this is great advice. This is something that I really should consider. I haven't quantified what I've done there. Now, this one's really interesting. So it's suggesting that I might like to consider tailoring my language. So adjusting your language slightly to better match the tone and style of the Reject Shop advertisement. It's fun, a fun, energetic brand, so you could incorporate a bit more of that personality. And then it's finally recommending to research the Reject Shop's company culture and values to see if I align. It's given me, some bit of an overall feedback and then some next steps as well. So, and that's a bit of a reminder of what we've done there. So we've got some really great information there, some really, really good tips for things that I can for some things that I can do. So I would then go back to my resume, and in particular, I would make sure that I am mentioning my experience in merchandising. I'm using some statistics here. I may be changing the language a little bit. And I need to go and check the Reject Shop's company culture and values. So I might even actually ask it, what are the Reject Shop's values? So let's ask Gemini that, and let's see what it comes back with. So it's having a think. And so, all right, you're right to think aligning your resume with Reject Shop's values. Unfortunately, they don't publicly list their values. However, based on their marketing and job descriptions, we can infer some of the following. So again, we're using it now to ask follow-up questions, and we're getting some more information. So that's a really good starter for the way that we should use it. So we use it. What we're talking about now is initial guidance, and we're using it for follow-up questions. So whatever ChatGPT or Gemini recommends there, we can get further prompt. AI, let's use AI for job and company research. So this is a really important one because, again, we want to tailor our resume and particularly our cover letter. We want to tailor our cover letter to be really, really specific to the advertisement. So let's jump back in and let's ask it a question. What is some good information I should include in my cover letter to show the Reject Shop I have done a lot of research? So let's ask that question, because we don't want to just include on our cover letter research that's really easy to find. The harder to find research is where there is a lot of value. All right, so you're right on track. Showing you've done research is crucial for making a strong impression. Here's some good information to include. Align with brand personality, showcase specific relevant skills, connect your experience. So it's being a little bit vague here. I'm just going to ask it, can you be a bit more specific? I would like to quote something that has happened or forecast to happen to the Reject Shop that is specific. So that's been a bit vague in general what it's given me. So I'm going to ask it to be a little bit more specific here. So maybe it's like something about their future growth plans or opening stores or something along those lines. Okay, so you're right. Quoting something specific is a great way to show you're dug into their needs. Growth and expansion. So here's some ideas. Recent store openings. I was particularly impressed with the Reject Shop's recent expansion plans, including the opening of a new store in the location. So this is where we need to be careful, though, and this is where I came back to the don'ts. Don't expect AI always to be honest and accurate. So that's a bit of a throwaway line. We need to make sure that's good. So I might even continue to ask it here. How many stores have the Reject Shop opened in Victoria in the last 2 years? So we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but what we want to find is if we can include a line here. For example, I'm really impressed to learn that the Reject Shop has opened 6 new stores in metropolitan Melbourne. There we go. I don't have access to that information. Go to, it's giving us some information. Their investor relations section. So we might even do that. This is how we can get right down the rabbit hole. The Reject Shop's website, we're going to Google that, investor relations, financial report. We can download a financial report if we want. Let's download that. 10 meg. No, I'm going to download it to my desktop. Call it Reject. Reject Shop annual report. So we download that, and so what I can then do is I can then upload that back. So I can then go, okay, I've downloaded the Reject Shop's annual report. I'm now going to upload it into Gemini, And I might say I'm going to say from the annual report, find me 2 stats that I can include in my cover. All right. From the attached annual report, find me 2 interesting pieces of information that I can include in my cover letter to show I have done great research. All right, so what's going to happen now? I've got to wait for it to, sorry, it's still extracting. And sometimes this is where it can be a little bit time consuming because we have uploaded a 10 megabyte file. I think it was, although I've still got it here. So it's 71 pages. So we're going to ask Gemini to go through 71 pages here once it's uploaded it, and yeah, come back with 2 interesting pieces. There we go, it's uploaded. So let's run that. So while that runs, let's jump back into the slideshow and talk about some more of those do's. So what we're doing now is we can use it really, really well for company research in particular. And a lot of the research we're doing now is to assist with writing of our cover letter. We have another whole workshop on how to write cover letters. I'd encourage you to go away and watch. But what we're doing right now is asking for some of that specific information. So let's jump back and see what it's found for us. All right. Okay. Here are 2 interesting pieces of information you could use: growth and expansion. All right. So it's actually given us a direct quote here, which we can use. I was impressed by the Reject Shop's commitment to expanding its store network, particularly in light of their recent opening of 17 new stores and plans to go an additional 15 to 20 in 25. My experience in, mention your own skills here, blah, blah, blah. So this is great information, really, really good. But what we need to do is we need to then go away and rewrite it in our own language. So that sounds very much AI written. So we've got the facts there that we know 17 new stores and plans to open another 15, 20. Take that out, put it into your cover letter and rewrite it yourself. So we're getting some really good information here. Copying and pasting it will be a mistake because it sounds very very AI written, but that's the goal there. If I read a cover letter and a candidate says, I read the company report and I saw the information you can see now, I'm calling them straight away because I'm thinking they've done a lot of research here. So that's a particular level that would really encourage you to get to. And then the final one, which I think we're giving a good example of here, is we want to use AI to find a point of difference. You need to make your application stand out, whether it's your cover letter or your resume. We want it to have a great point of difference. So some common resume questions before we finish up. How long should my resume be? Well, I don't mind. Whether it's 1 page, 2 page, 3 or 4, I wouldn't recommend any more than 4. But it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3 or 4 unless the first page is good. All of your attention needs to go into page 1. Should I include a photo of myself on my resume? So I've talked to you about the fact that your resume is a sales document. It needs to sell you. It needs to market you. It needs to promote you. Do you think putting a photo of yourself on your resume sells you? I can't answer that for you. You need to make your mind up there. What you do need to be conscious of, though, as soon as you put a photo on your resume, you are inviting all different types of conscious and unconscious bias. People are going to judge you on your appearance. So you need to decide in many ways, does your photo help to sell you? Does it help to market you? Does it help to promote you? It's an individual decision. I'm not here to tell you there's a right way and a wrong way. Should I include references or academic transcripts on my resumes? References, yes. You could just the contact details. Maybe if I see down the bottom someone's listed the name of their reference and their position and their company, I think that's a strong sign that they're going to get a good reference. Academic transcripts, no, not unless you've been asked specifically in the advertisement. And do I include every job that I've ever worked in? My answer here is no, you don't need to. I would say you don't really need to go too much back more than 10 years. You can still list those jobs if you want, but you don't need to go into great detail. It might just be the job title of the company and the particular years. So the summary today for resumes, you need to sell your skills, your experience, and your achievements. You need to make it easy to read. If it's difficult to read, people won't read it. It should be visually appealing, and it's okay to be bold and try and stand out. And finally, your resume must be tailored for every single role. So that's the end of today. We'll stop the recording in a moment, but happy to hang around here. If anybody's got any questions, please feel free to type them in now. But it's been great having you join me today. I hope you've learned a little bit about resumes and how you can use AI to improve the quality of your applications. We'll run this workshop again soon, partly because AI keeps advancing, and I think in 3 and 6 months' time, it'll be even more capable.